Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me once again for tea time. Today we have a little bit of fireside. That's it, simply fireside. It's got that smokiness of the Lapsang tea in there and a bunch of other things. It's so good guys. I hope you're having your cup of tea or possibly a cup of me, hanging out, talking tech, talking photo, video, whatever it is. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about a very interesting article that I was reading over on Petapixels, and it was kind of one of those things that it hit home. And the reason being is I am a photographer, but I'm also an artist. There's a lot of hats that I wear, and I went to fine art school. So there's a lot of things in this article that, let's say, hit home. And I think some of them should hit home for you also in regards to copyright and IP and intellectual property. And where is the line blurred that your photographs can be used, let's say, to the general public? Anyone could just download your photo over on Facebook and there you go. They can use it. Is that how it is, or is it not? And what are your legal rights? That type of thing. So before I go any further, I want to say that if you haven't downloaded my ebook as of yet, go grab it. It's free. 10 tips at making tack-sharp images. There's something there for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a professional, a pro-am, or an amateur. You're gonna learn something. Go to JCristina.com/ebook. Once again, JCristina.com/ebook. 10 tips at making tack-sharp images. It's free. So a photographer, an LA photographer, Jeff Sedlick, created this iconic portrait of Miles Davis. He's a famous jazz musician. And this was back in like 1989, I believe. And ever since then, he's been making money on this image, and which is great. It was first published, I think, on the cover of Jazz's, Jazziz, back then, the same year, about 1989. So this has been around for a long time. It was actually on Life magazine, even, as one of the pictures of the year. So it's obviously famous. And this extremely famous tattoo artist, Kat Von D, used this image to create a tattoo for one of her clients back in 2017. Now, this woman, Kat Von D, if you don't know who she is, she's extremely famous. She does tattooing out of Hollywood, California, and she's on the reality TV show, I think it's LA Inked. All the tattoo artists will come in and compete to see who's the best, let's say. And she has a massive Instagram following. It's like almost 8 million people, a ton of followers. And she put that out there in 2017 showing her work. That's her actually working on it, and that's him back there. Maybe I'll throw it up on the screen so you can see it a little bit better. But the problem was that she did not get permission from this photographer, from Jeff Sedlick, to say, listen, I want to make this image as a tattoo for a client. Can I do that? She didn't do that. And that's when the gray area kind of came about. Now, supposedly he reached out to her, or his representatives reached out to her on multiple occasions to try to have something worked out. And it just didn't. Okay, I guess she didn't want to pay whatever he wanted for her to use that reference material. And I'll get to that nomenclature in just a second. Reference material. So on February 7th, just this month, a complaint was filed, 31 pages long, in the California Federal District Court, basically saying that he wants, talking about Jeff Sedlick now, up to $150,000 for damages. Now, this includes, profits earned from the photo tattoo, as they call it, losses incurred for the infringement, let's say, as well as fees incurred for the litigation. All right. Now, if he wins, I expect that he will get every bit of that. Okay, but will he win? And that's where I want to discuss this with you a little bit. Now, The photographer told Billboard magazine that Kat Von D was contacted, like I said, on multiple occasions and basically to no avail. No amicable resolution could be, let's say, put together. So that's why the suit ended up going forth. So a quote from Billboard magazine states, quote, Miss Von Drachenberg, that's her last name, Kat Von D Drachenberg, I won't say that anymore, anyways, we'll call it D, not only used Mr. Sedlick's photograph without permission or license, but took credit for Mr. Sedlick's creation as her own, distributing photographs of her unlawful derivative work to millions of social media followers, and supplied those photographs to publishers for inclusion for promotional editorial about Miss Von D and her various commercial ventures. This is what Billboard states. Now, they continue by saying, Miss Von D failed to respect the creative work of a fellow artist and chose to monetize Mr. Sedlick's iconic photograph for her personal financial gain, exploiting the value of Mr. Sedlick's photograph to build her brand and to promote the sale of her product and services. Now, that sounds pretty good, right? That sounds like, wow, she's horrible. Right? She's absolutely horrible. Well, we're going to get into it a little bit. Now, the deep question is, was this tattoo a derivative? Was this a transformative? What do we call this image? All right? Was it a one-to-one representation? So, Copyright Lately, another magazine, let's call it, they state, the most likely copyright defense for Von D to assert is fair use, on the theory that her tattoo transformed the original image in some way by altering it with a new meaning or message. So, is this a possibility or not? Now, in the complaint that Sedlick filed, they state explicitly that the tattoo, the offending tattoo, was an unauthorized reproduction. Now, that makes sense, right? Because if it was an unauthorized reproduction, then of course, the line now from black and white is just that, black and white. It is or it isn't. It's very digital, 1 or 0. But if it's not an unauthorized reproduction, okay, now the line becomes gray. Is it a transformational work? Is it not? Is it a reproduction? Is it not? Is a one-to-one reproduction? Is it not? Was it just simply used to photograph as a reference tool? What is it? So this is where things, like I said, get a little bit more gray. Is the tattoo artist a tattoo artist, or as Petapixel calls it, a tattoo technician? And in my mind's eye, a tattoo artist has always been a tattoo artist. They are not tattooing things one-to-one. And I'll get into that in just a second, basically by what I do, and I'll explain this a little bit deeper for you guys. Now, let me just get into my thoughts on it. We get the idea of what's going on here, and I understand where they're going with it. Now, my question is, will they be able to get through with it? Do we think that this litigation will actually happen? Now, let me start out by showing you an image that I created on my iPad. Now, you guys know that I am an artist, right? I've been an artist for quite some time, and I paint a lot. I used to paint more with oils and acrylics and whatnot, but as time is no longer allowed for, I paint a lot on the iPad. Why? Because I can do it at night. I can do it while everyone is sleeping. So, anyways, this right here is an image that I created of Harlequin. You know, around the studio here, I have a lot of images of Harlequin. Not only do I think that she's beautiful, but I also love her persona, right? In all of the movies. I just like it. I'm a little bit dark like that. Anyways, so this is it. This is what I drew. Now, if you look at the screen over here, this is the reference material that I used. And as you can see, it is very similar to this painting. All right. But some of the things that you will notice is she has like some type of stick or something in her mouth. Whereas here, if I zoom in, you can probably see that we have a blow pop. right? So we change things up a little bit. The same things if we go into her eyes. We altered them just slightly. They're not exactly how they were in the image. They're close, right? They're close, even with the hairs. Now, are these the same fine hairs that were there? No. Okay? This is an alteration. This is my interpretation of this photograph. This photograph was used as reference, and then I used other photographs to add details that I couldn't see that I can now see in the other reference material. So even though the representation is of Harlequin, and it comes from a reference that I show here, this right here to me is not, quote unquote, a copyrighted piece of material. Why is that? Because this is not a one-to-one representation of the original image. It is a likeness. It is a drawing. It is an artist's interpretation. Now, let me show you guys what this looks like in print, okay? So you can see it. So this was just a quick print that I made of it, right? And there you go, okay? And now the question is, if I was to take this print and sell it, all right, would I be infringing on copyright? Would I be infringing on DC's patent, let's call it, on this person, on Harlequin? Maybe, all right, maybe it could be room for litigation, but I would have to say that once again, this is an artist's interpretation of the character known as Harlequin. Okay, even though there's reference material used to create it, the reference material is from different sources. You have a main source, and then you have other sources that I used to get all of these details. Perfect example is all of the little tattooing and stuff. You can't see it in the actual face, but you can see it in here. So also on the necklace and whatnot. So there's reasons why a tattoo artist uses reference material. Obviously, this is going to be something that's placed on someone's body. We want to make sure that it's the best that it can be. So coming full circle, is that image that's tattooed on this person's body by Von D, is that image a one-to-one replica? Okay, is it? And that is the idea that they're trying to state. This is what we're trying to get to, and that's the two words that's in this 31 pages that mean anything. Unauthorized reproduction. Is it an unauthorized reproduction? That is one of the questions. Now, did the artist use reference material to create it? Absolutely, because you can see her using the image over there as reference material, okay? And then in another image, you can see her on a light table using that image to create a stencil. Now, making tattoos in the past for people, okay? If you don't know how it works, basically, if I was to have this tattooed onto someone, okay, you would make a stencil of this, and the stencil would be the exact location of everything. And then what you would do in the stencil is you would create circles of highlights and darks and color patterning. So you know where things go, where you're going to be flooding ink and what colors of the ink. So if you actually looked at the stencil won't look exactly like this. If you look at her forehead, you would have a stencil that shows like a circle over here where you have a highlight and maybe a dark area over here where you have your low light and whatnot. That's how it would work. And then you would have your tracing of where everything goes so that you get perspective right and you get sizing right. Okay? So it's not exact. This is not an exact science. This is an artistic creation that's taken from reference. And a lot of people will see like that light table and they'll be like, oh my God, she's just copying it one-to-one. That's not how it works. They create a stencil. The stencil is then transferred to the body, and that's when the entire art begins. So to understand this better, if the artist, and I have done this in the past, and you can try this also. If the artist took that image, okay, of Miles Davis and placed it on the subject's arm, let's say, wherever it's going, upside down, and then drew it or painted it, it would be an easier means of creating this image. Now, people will be like, what the hell are you talking about? Whenever I teach art to people, I say, listen, do not paint or draw what you think you see. Paint or draw what is there only. So what happens is when you see this and you see an eye there, you start drawing an eye, and it looks like a first grader's eye. Now, if you took it and flipped it over and said, draw this shape, when you're done drawing this shape and flip it back over, it'll look like an eye. Why? Because you took your brain out of the mix, and now you're using just lights and darks and shapes and lines to create a representation of that eye. All right? So it really doesn't make too much of a difference how you get there, but this is the perfect example on one way where it really doesn't matter what is in that stencil. You're drawing lights and darks and shades and different shapes of color to create that image. And then once it's all done, the image is created. And people look back and they're like, wow, that's amazing. Try it sometime. Don't draw an eye upside down. And just draw the shapes that you see in the eye. And then go back and flip it back over and tell me what you get. I guarantee you it will be a better eye. So is the tattoo of Miles Davis a likeness of Miles Davis? Absolutely. Van Dyck did a great job. It looks just like him. Fantastic. But is it an unauthorized reproduction? A one-to-one reproduction, almost like a photocopy? And I would venture to say the court will say no, because it isn't. If you take a picture of it and you look at it compared to it, you're going to see there's going to be a lot of things that are not exact. All right? I guarantee you that there's not a single dot of ink on that arm that is a one-to-one representation of Miles Davis. Okay? I guarantee it. So that being said, what do you think? Do you think that this photographer is going to win? Jeff Sedlick. Do you think that he's going to get that $100 and some thousand from Kat Von D? I personally think that he won't, for the reasons that I put out. But I want to know your thoughts. And also, even more importantly, if you are putting your photographs out there and they are not watermarked or copyrighted, and they're on Facebook and they're on Instagram and they're all over the web, okay? Don't expect people to honor your copyright that they can't see, nor know that it's there, because they won't. They're going to find it to be fair use, and they're going to use it for their work. So if you are a professional photographer and you have taken some amazing pictures of cats and you don't want anyone to use those cats, watermark them. Okay? Absolutely 100%. There's a lot of photographers out there that say, oh, it hurts my work. It distracts from my beautiful art. Yeah, what's going to distract is when your art gets taken and then you have no recourse. Now, I did a video way back when I first started this, like a year and a half, 2 years ago, maybe even longer now, I don't know, about how to automatically copyright your work the minute that you pull the trigger. All right? Check that out. Each camera is different, but most cameras allow you to do that. I think that is a fantastic thing to do, because now baked into the data is your copyright. So when I take a picture with any of the 10, 12 cameras here that we have in the studio, it will say JCristina LLC, and it'll also have a phone number to contact. So if any image, it doesn't matter if it's raw or then transformed into a JPEG, that data will move over if I say that it should. Metadata, I think, is very important to put, especially into JPEGs that are going to go roam around freely. That's number one. And of course, number two, the most important thing is just watermark your work. All right. Once it's watermarked, people know that it's copyrighted and they're going to be less likely to use it. But once again, I don't think that that is applicable in this situation, because we all know that that photograph is iconic. It is copyrighted. She ended up using it. But once again, the question was, did she use it as an unauthorized reproduction, or did she use it as simply reference? And I would say the answer is reference. But I want to know what you think. I think that it's a really fascinating article. I think it's a little bit more of a deep dive, but I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of how an artist and photographer, professional artist, I've created many tattoos, okay? So I don't tattoo, but I've created them for people. As a professional artist, as a professional photographer, videographer, DP, for many, many years, I'm looking at it on both sides of the spectrum. The white side, the black side, and trying to come together into the gray median. And it doesn't matter how I look at it, being that I don't feel that it is an unauthorized one-to-one reproduction, I think that they're going to be hard-pressed to be able to get money from Kat Von D. Once again, what do you think? So if you enjoyed this content, as always, throw it a big thumbs up. That will be very, very helpful. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so if you so desire, and click this little bell icon right here. So when I go live, you will be notified of it immediately, or if a new video comes out. And if you want to help the channel, you can always donate by clicking the little join button right underneath every one of the videos. Once you click that, you can become a member, and members get perks, basically. And I can give back to you as you provide the channel $1, $2, whatever you want per month, completely up to you. Also, when we're done talking about this topic in the comment area below this video, head over to community.jcristina.com. Once again, community.jcristina.com. It's an awesome creative Discord server that I created for us to hang out and just chat 24/7. All day. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Photographers, videographers, tech heads. Everyone's there hanging out, and there's no trolls, which is pretty helpful. Just like this channel, no trolls. And that's the way I like it. Also, like I said before, if you haven't downloaded my ebook as of yet, go to jcristina.com/ebook. Once again, jcristina.com/ebook. Download my ebook. It is free. 10 tips of making tack sharp images. There's something there for pros, for amateurs, for pro-ams in the middle, whatever. There's something there for everyone. And finally, head over to my website, jcristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools that I've invented for you and me over the years, and hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me and my family. That's it, guys. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe and stay healthy.